This is City Focus, the podcast from the League of Oregon Cities, where we explore the issues that matter to cities across Oregon.
Welcome to this special episode of City Focus. City voices were front and center Thursday, January 24th at the Capitol as nearly 200 city officials representing approximately 100 cities across the state gathered in Salem for City Day at the Capitol. As part of the event, mayors, council members, and city managers met with legislators to discuss the League's 2019 legislative priorities. These face-to-face meetings are invaluable, allowing city officials to personally tell their story to legislators and underscore city issues as legislators deal with a crush of approximately 2,000 bills. Attending city officials also heard from state leaders, including Governor Kate Brown and Senate President Peter Courtney.
As I said to the legislature last week, governing is not for the faint of heart, and I encourage you to put your metal underpants on every single day. And for most of you at the local level, I know it's truly a labor of love. I know you're not getting paid millions of dollars to do this work. You're doing it because you want to make your communities a better place, and I very much appreciate that, and I know Oregonians do too.
I have immense respect for city councils and to their staffs. And of course, you probably know why I did start on the city council just right up the hill there at Salem, 1978, 1980. And while the federal government gets most of the attention, and then the governor, and then what's left over the legislature, the truth is I have long felt the most dearest form of government are our local governments.
Throughout the day, I had the opportunity to talk with quite a few elected officials who spent the day in Salem. Here's what some of them had to say about City Day and why it's a valuable and important event to attend.
This is a great opportunity to network with other cities. So a lot of what I do is build coalitions between cities. We find neighboring cities that have similar interests and we all work together. So wonderful opportunity to meet other people from other cities and also to find issues in common.
It's been really useful to be able to talk to legislators directly. I think the changes that have been made at the League have been very good.
I don't care if the lobbyist from Nike Corporation or whatever is in my office. If the city of Kaiser, St. Paul, or Newburgh person comes to the door, they get in. Same with constituents, more so. But I'm all about local control. I always have been. Let the local folks sort it out, not the big bad state or the big bad Fed.
As local leaders, we are responsible for setting and implementing policy in our communities. We know that the best decisions are made locally and that tax dollars are most wisely spent. Locally. We also know that small dollars, which may be a rounding error in state government, are often our lifeblood.
Also on this episode of City Focus, LOC's IGR assistant Jenna Jones and I chat about City Day, how it works, and why your city should participate in the next one. So, Jenna, we just got through with City Day. We finished it up. For people who are not familiar with it or maybe are new to the League, what is City Day?
So City Day is a biennial event that we do, and it's kind of focused around cities lobbying for themselves. Okay. And it's to build those relationships between the legislature and the city electeds and city staff, because they are the best people to carry a message. We can do it for them, and their lobbyists, when they're hired, can do it. But it always is like straight to the heart when we have city representatives and city officials talk about what's going on in their cities. So it's a big building relationship day. And it's also our biggest event of the long session that we do.
Okay. So what cities can expect then the League is then sort of more of a role of facilitator, sort of getting both parties in the same room so that they can have that conversation?
Yeah, so we definitely get leadership from both sides to come in and various state people to come talk to our city members, but then we also reserve time in the afternoon for everyone to go visit with their legislators and make those appointments and kind of get comfortable navigating legislative landscape of the Capitol and things like that.
Do you find, is that intimidating, especially for newbies, new council members, new city managers, can it be intimidating to come to Salem and then first of all, trying to find your way around the Capitol is intimidating. It's because it's confusing. Is it intimidating though for a city official from a small city, maybe say to come into Salem? Is it daunting for them to try to set up the time to sit down? Do we help them sort of navigate that?
We do. And so especially for the newcomers, some of the folks that have been here for a while know their legislators, know many legislators even outside their districts, and can make the appointments by themselves. But one of the things that I was doing beforehand was, if cities had problems getting those appointments, it's, oh, well, this is the person you need to talk to. Here's like their contact information. And let me know if you don't have an appointment, because maybe I can go over there and we can try to get something on the books. But also we encourage people to just stop by. If they didn't hear back from their legislator, just stop by their office.
Yeah.
Because 99% of the time you'll either get to meet their legislative assistant or their chief of staff, or they might be there. And I knew with some people, like the city of Coquille, they actually know both of their legislators pretty well, that they didn't really have appointments. They just kind of showed up. And like Representative David Brock Smith heard Mayor Simonetti out in like the foyer of his office and was like, oh, hello. And so you have some of those organic relationships too, where it doesn't have to be hyper formalized, because when you live in someone's district, sometimes you know each other already.
Yeah, true. Especially some of the smaller, more rural ones, I would think you would have a little bit more of a personal relationship there, where you could just pop your head in and go, hey, and have that conversation. So, it was a busy day. There were a lot of participants. Do we know how many cities actually participated this year?
There were almost 100 cities who participated. So we're getting close to the halfway mark of cities across the state.
So that would include electeds, whomever they want to bring, staff?
Yes.
So they could have come with 3 or 4 people?
Yes.
Okay. The day was busy. It was actually a lot of fun. It was my first city day, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great learning experience. From your perspective, kind of as the event coordinator and planning all this, were there any highlights for you that kind of jumped out at you as things that were successful, things that were interesting that you want to share?
Yeah, I think there are 3 things. And like the first one and the biggest one is we got a lot of new city involvement. So cities who had never attended before decided they wanted to come. So that's positive that we were marketing it well and that people wanted to come and thought our information was relevant. And then we got all of legislative leadership and the governor and the state treasurer to come. And so that was a personal goal, but also it's really awesome to have the engagement from our legislators and people that, as like an intergovernmental relations team, we work with quite often, but to have them also engage with our members is huge. And then the last thing is, I think we had a very successful press conference. I heard that in all of the time we've been doing these City Day at the Capitals, this was the one that we got the most questions, which was good because people were engaged. The reporters were engaged with what we were bringing to the table. So that was awesome.
That is awesome. That's really good to hear. And then as far as having all the legislative leadership there, I think that goes a long way towards the cities, as far as maybe not necessarily feeling like constituents, but more like collaborative partners. I would think that would go a long way if you've got both sides. Everybody is willing to show up and sit down.
Yeah, and they talked about relevant things. Yeah. I mean, we asked them to talk about how they were going to work with us on our priorities, but other things came out of that, like water technical assistance and bonding with the treasurer's office. But then even most of the speakers talked about wildfires. And as we know, that's a big thing for Southern Oregon, and it's becoming more and more popular during the summertime to have wildfires, and how do communities deal with that? And so it seems like there's going to be some bipartisan help when it comes to these wildfires, so these communities can have more aid when it happens.
That's good to hear. I got that sense as well, being in the audience, hearing that. And there was a lot of engagement from the cities on the floor, a lot of questions, a lot of good, thoughtful questions, and there's a lot of concerns. And so it did seem to be that there was more of a two-way communication for collaboration that way.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily interesting that they would take questions from the floor, but the fact that I feel with some speakers, we had a lot of questions and we just kind of rolled with it. We had a schedule that we were trying to keep, but hey, if we can get questions in dialogue, I think that was the heart and that was the meat of what we wanted to get out of the day.
So kind of from the participants, the city participants, what kind of feedback have you been getting, good, bad, or indifferent, just now that it's, we're past, we're on the other side of the event? I know coming up to the event, it's planning, frantic, getting everything ready. Then it's kind of like a wedding. You have the event and it's like, okay, now we're done. So now we're on the other side of it.
I think on the whole, a lot of the feedback has been positive this year, which is good. We'll do a formal survey here soon and have people responding for about 2 weeks. But from what I got just on the floor and just being around folks at the reception was that we had a wealth of information this year that was very, very useful. So we had these color-coded cards that seemed to be a hit.
Yes.
With bill numbers and things like that. But it wasn't just a hit for our city folks. It was also a hit for our legislative folks. A lot of them took them away with them. And that wasn't the intent, but I was all for it.
I can see the value for them as well, just to have that handy reference as far as what matters to cities.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we have one priority card we drop off at the beginning of session anyways, but we had more of them. We had like 6 different ones in addition to the one we normally drop off with legislators. And so that was cool. I think that we also offered enough time to get up and interact with each other, both at the reception and at lunch when you have a taco bar and everyone can kind of mingle during food. Tacos. Everyone needs tacos.
It was a hit. Okay, it was a hit. I heard that. It was delicious. So you say this is not an annual event. So we're obviously not doing City Day next year. Relationships, conversations, things were built, things were established. What do you think cities and legislators can do to keep the gains that were made on this City Day and then to keep the momentum going forward?
Yeah, so I think that, especially because this was the first week of session, they had barely been in, so this is a good time to get their attention and kind of give them your asks. But now it's reminding. Yeah. It's checking in with your legislator. It's continuing to foster that relationship. So now they're not really going to be in district, so it's coming to Salem and testifying or being dialed in to when a bill that affects communities is happening and submitting testimony. And even if the legislator that is your legislator isn't on a committee that's hearing a bill that's going to affect cities, you can always let your legislator know, give them a call, and then that can help pass things through various houses or have things not go places if we don't want it. And I think now is the time to just continue that dialogue, probably on a monthly basis. Towards the end of session, start ramping it up on a weekly basis of just checking in with your legislature. And I mean, it is about relationships. So it's not always about when you have an ask, it's, just them as a human being and having that human connection so that when you can call them up and have a frank conversation about how that's going to affect your city.
I'm glad you mentioned that because it is about the relationships. Politics is about relationships in the cities and the counties and the state level. We have similar issues, different ways of looking at them, different tools in our tool bags to do that. Before we close, there is one tool. I know you had put together some tutorials as far as how you can look up and track bills. So someone who's, not close to the Capitol, but has something that they want to keep track of. Just want to give you a chance to give a quick plug for that as far as something that the League is offering as a beneficial tool.
Yeah. So I coordinate all of our bill tracking. So we have a system called CM3. And so it keeps track of all of our League bills. So what our lobbyists are tracking, and you can actually see who's tracking it and like what category it falls into. And then that way you can call and ask us questions about it. But then the state has a system called OLIS, which is really great. So if you are not in Salem or near Salem and you can't come for testimony, you can actually watch hearings live. So that's the biggest perk of OLIS is I know sometimes when I'm feeling not so particularly energetic to walk across the street to the Capitol, I will sit in my office and watch hearings. And it's actually one of the biggest key things that they have. Yeah. And I know that the legislature is really big on making sure that things are accessible to everyone in the state. But yeah, CM3 is great. And if anyone ever needs questions, they can always call me. And same with OLIS. I can try to help people navigate through that as well. Yeah,
I noticed you've got 2 YouTube tutorials out there. We'll link to those in show notes because those are great resources, especially for someone, Eastern Oregon can't get here. It takes a day to get here, but you want to be up to speed, up to the minute on what's going on. So you know exactly what you're talking about when you do call your legislator.
Yeah. And people can always call me as well if they have a general idea of some bill that they need to know a number on and things like that. And usually I'm best reached by phone or email and can circle people with the right people that can get them information on a bill.
Okay. We will link that up. I think that's a good sort of synopsis and wrap up of what City Day at the Capitol is. Jenny, you've given some good resources. There's some good tools out there for our members to use. So once again, I'm speaking to Intergovernmental Relations Assistant Jenna Jones about City Day at the Capitol. Jenna, thanks for taking the time and coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you for what you do. I think we're living in a difficult time for anyone who is in public service. And I think I routinely tell people, I think folks like yourself at the local government level, city level, county level have, I think, much harder jobs in a lot of ways than I do. And you're all doing it for the amazing salaries that you're getting.
First I would like to thank all of city councils and all the volunteers in all your cities, because I don't think they get the recognition they deserve, because I know most of those positions are volunteer, whether it's park boards or school boards, city councils, and all the subcommittees. So, those people really need to be recognized. I've served on some of those over the years, and I just don't think that those folks really get the recognition they deserve. So my hat's off to all those volunteers in all the different cities.
And for those of you who are officials, or those of you who are council people, staff, who have care of our hometowns, thank you very much for that. I really, really appreciate what you do in keeping care of the towns that are near and dear to us.
Thanks for listening to this special episode of City Focus. The LOC would like to thank its members who traveled to Salem and helped make City Day at the Capitol a success. Check out the show notes for links to Jenna's email, her video tutorials on using OLIS and CM3, and keep an eye out for our post-event survey coming soon. My name is Denise Nanke, and I'm the host and producer of City Focus, the podcast from the League of Oregon Cities. The League is a governmental entity formed to work with our members to help local government better serve the citizens of Oregon. LOC strives to be the go-to place for Oregon cities as a resource hub for advocacy, education, and best practices. While our focus is Oregon and Oregon issues, we realize that we have many issues in common across the country, and we hope this podcast will reach beyond the borders of our state to share ideas and solutions. If you have suggestions for topics or comments about any of our podcasts, send me an email at cityfocus@orcities.org.